Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live, presented by DraftKings. This is the Conference Championship Weekend Betting Preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Collin Wilson, Mike Calabrese, and the one and only Josh Nunn, aka Duck. We have a lot to get to today. We'll get to our best bets in just a moment. We'll talk the marquee matchup of the day between Georgia and Alabama, and we will build our Saturday moneyline parlay. And really looking forward to this. We'll talk with Duck to get his thoughts on the FCS playoffs. Got a lot to talk about there and some potential values still on the board. By the way, you can use the quick slip links that will drop into the YouTube chat so you can quickly and easily add any of the picks that you want to follow to your bet slip. Gentlemen, before we get started, last night, another crazy Kennesaw Jacksonville State game. Kennesaw gets a 4th and 14 conversion late. We had Boise pretty dominant in their victory over UNLV, continuing to own that series. And then we had James Madison, who, for my sake, I want them out of the playoff. You're not going to add a touchdown at the end? That was part of the reason I bet them. They stop at the 10 and take knees. I want them out. Put Duke in if Duke wins. And then we had Calabrese. I know you weren't happy with this. Neither was I because I had a North Texas ticket. North Texas turns it over 5 times, loses their star back, didn't get a single bounce the entire game. I'm talking like drop pick sixes, fumbles, interceptions. The play that wasn't that a touchback? A clear touchback? Or am I
You would
crazy?
think.
Well, ball was clearly out the one. So that was. I also don't like. We got to spread out the games better. We have not only 9 games this week, 9 FBS games this weekend. We have 4 at the same time on Friday night. That annoys me a bit. But I'll ask you this before we get started. You can go one of two directions: a key takeaway from last night, or what you think happens with the college football playoff. By the way, Colin and I will be doing our Sunday recap podcast with voicemails, 959 Bad Beat. We're going to do it when the bracket is released. We'll have our live reaction to the bracket. A lot of things still to be determined. But I'll ask you this: key takeaway from last night, or what do you want to happen, or what do you think happens? Duck, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll give two. Tulane's going to get destroyed in the playoff. I think they're not going to be as competitive as maybe they could have been in prior years. I don't know. A lot
I
of
agree.
fun stuff going on here. Is Alabama assuredly in with a loss? Does it matter how they lose? Does it matter what that final score is? Can BYU steal a bid? I don't think so. What do they do with Notre Dame? Miami, Notre Dame bumping up against each other. Is the committee at all going to possibly put Miami in over Notre Dame given the head-to-head result? Or is Notre Dame safe? A lot of the betting market would say, yeah, maybe Notre Dame's not as safe to make the playoff as you might think. That Notre Dame playoff, yes or no, has steamed down towards no for about 10 days. So a lot to shake out yet. I think it's going to be a fun Saturday. We'll have a lot of hot action going on, but it's going to be real fun the next 36 hours to see what happens.
Cash your tickets via Duck saying hot action in the first 3 minutes. By the way, if you were the committee, Duck, who would you put in, Notre Dame or Miami, if they were right next to each other?
I think if Notre Dame does not surrender the fourth and goal pass against Texas A&M, if that pass is incomplete, and we're talking 11 and 1 Notre Dame with how they've played defensively the last 8 weeks, Notre Dame's the 3 seed. I think Notre Dame's legitimately talented defensively. I think that defense is nasty. I think the offense has certainly come around with CJ Carr. I'm not a Notre Dame homer by any stretch, but I think that team is supremely talented. I'd put Notre Dame in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, head to head matters, but it's not the end all be all. Timing of losses matters as well. I mean, they lost to Miami on the road in week 1, right? CJ Carr's first start. The defense was a mess early on. They had
Well,
injuries.
how many of those passes for Carson Beck that were bad throws that ended up working out? The one-handed catch on the goal line, the 3rd and 17 in the back of the end zone to the left. I mean, there was so many things that had to happen for Miami just to get the win.
Yep, agreed. Colin, how about you? Anything you want to take away from last night or something that you want to, or I'm
Uh,
curious?
Tulane's a fraud. That was a fraud box score against North Texas. There was way too many turnovers, yards per play. It doesn't matter how you slice it. Tulane shouldn't have won that game. And now
I
I'm
mean, you can't
staring.
lose a turnover battle 5-0 on the road and
Right.
win.
And now I'm looking at Tulane versus Oregon in the first round being 21 and a half. I'm looking at Tulane versus Ole Miss in the first round being 15 and a half, 16. Is Summerall going to stick around and coach that when he's got the portal opening on the second for Florida? By the way, the hire of offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, you better believe I'm coming out hot on the SEC pod next year and saying we're taking Florida. But the thing for me is should Notre Dame be over Miami? No, because you have to honor the head-to-head. But at the same time, like Duck said, I have them power rated as the third best team in the country. You go to Saturn, they have them Notre Dame power rated as the third best team in the country. So I can make this argument all day that Miami should be ahead of them. At the same time, I think Notre Dame is one of the very few teams. I think there's maybe like only five that can really win the national title.
Yeah,
So it's a tough
I think they're a
decision by
top
the
three
committee.
team. So
Yeah.
Miami's a top 10 team, but I think Notre Dame is a top three team. Makai Hughes, does he come back out after redshirting for the revenge game if they play Tulane? By the way, Jake Retzlaff in the college football playoff. BYU might not be. What about that storyline? Calabrese, how about you?
Just looking at the college football playoff, I'm kind of sick of the whole narrative of we need to expand it. We need to get it to 16 because there's all these teams that could win the national championship. I'm someone who loves the history of the sport. There's never been a team that's finished the regular season, got through championship week outside of the top 10 that I thought to myself, well, that clearly was the best team in the country, or they could have won it. Like, if you can't find yourself in the top eight, in the top six at this point, then you've done it to yourself. And I think that's the problem and the quiet part that they can't say out loud in terms of the playoff committee when they're handling questions. Every one of these teams did something to themselves. Yeah, you can talk about quality losses and all these metrics until you're blue in the face, but you had control of your own destiny to a certain degree. I agree with this entire panel. I think Notre Dame is a team that can win the national championship. I have eyes. I can see how they got better throughout the season and the Carr angle from his first career start to who he is now. It's a completely different offense. But at the same time, like they did give up that fourth down play to Texas A&M. They lost at the end. Like it is what it is. So in terms of like people feeling as though they've been jobbed, like we're now at this point on Twitter where every single fan base feels like they personally are victimized. No, you are not. At some point, the committee, because they're so weak in terms of their messaging and their PR, they're not out against you. You did something to yourself to put yourself in this position, and it just frustrates me that the pundits can't say that out loud, even the ones who are covering it. Like ESPN's been spending what the last 10 days just covering for Lane Kiffin. That's all they've been focused on. So no one is coming to the support of the committee. I think they're always in an impossible situation. Do I think they do a really poor comms job? Yes. But at the same time, like eventually you just have to pick who truly you think is the best teams in the country and not just being chained to a resume. Because if you were, then you have to put Miami in. They beat them head to head. They have that, that point and they deserve to be in.
By the way, getting some news updates. Jason Candle to UConn, and then it looks like
Oh,
Jake Pass is coming back to Cal.
And
Uh,
we'll see about that.
Jason
There's
Candle to
always some late money that
UConn.
could come in.
yeah, but I mean they matched. I think Cal tried to match Mendoza, and he was Jake Pass was originally committed to Oregon, and Lapoi's going there, so maybe that played a role in it. But that's important news for the bowl, for Cal's bowl. They will play Hawaii in the Hawaii Bowl Christmas Eve. I've already started working on the bowl file. I'm going through every team injuries. Was up all night doing this. Injuries, potential opt-outs. That'll be up early this week. We have
Are,
bowls starting next Saturday. We will have a seven-part preview with all of us going through
roll,
every single bowl. What's that?
Rolovich versus Chang on New Year's Eve.
That's the
I'm sorry,
best.
Christmas Eve. What's the drink of choice? Because I'm going high dollar scotch. Rolovich
Something
back on the
inside of a
island.
pineapple for sure, whatever you mix up.
White Russians. All right, let's get to picks. Best bets. Collin, kick things off.
Yeah, I'm going. Let's go big. I'm going Indiana +4. I think that they can win this game. Absolutely. Look, I've talked about on the podcast about the run concepts that Indiana runs. I'm not really sure Roman Hemby with the zone read is going to have much success against this Ohio State front, but Kalen Black running man gap blocking schemes is a place where Ohio State has had a real problem defending when it comes to the ground game. Black should absolutely dominate. Ohio State's numbers against that are fall below 50% from a success rate perspective. When you go to the other side of the ball, I just don't have any expectation that Ohio State can run the ball, even with Bo Jackson as explosive as he's been lately. This is a different kind of defense he's going up against, and the Hoosiers are just dominant against zone read. We're talking about an Indiana defense that's 4-2-5 that is the best in havoc and best in defensive finishing drives. So good luck if you have a methodical and you get down there. You could get the ball taken away at any point, and you're not going to score that many points. The one thing I'll say this, I just want to throw this in there. Indiana +4 is the play. If Fernando Mendoza does not win this game, if Indiana does not win this game, I think we get a Diego Pavia Heisman winner. I'll leave it there and see what you guys think. But
I would tend to agree. It's going to depend on the numbers.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, this game's going to potentially decide it. But Pavia waiting in the wings. He wanted to play this weekend as well. I do think like I'm close in this number. I'm going to play Indiana small. I think a lot of the intangibles favor Indiana. Hard to quantify and could be just way off base. But number one, the crowd, right? This is going to be a pro Indiana crowd. A lot of the Ohio State, I mean, where it is, but a lot of the Ohio State fans going to want to go to the college football playoff game, not travel for a Big Ten championship. This game means so much more to Indiana. So, I mean, hey, we have to prove ourselves that last year we were embarrassed. Ohio State's entire focus all year has been on winning the national title, load management. Now, do they let loose here, or do they just not, or do they just keep going slow, methodical, not really show as much? I'm not sure, but I think there's some intangibles that I could argue favor Indiana. Should be a really good game. The only thing we haven't seen from Ohio State is clearly the best team in the country is staying in a close game. I'm sure Day would like. We've seen Mendoza. We've seen this Indiana team in some close games. I'm sure Day would like to have this game be close before the college football playoff, right? Get some experience in, a one possession game with, 2 minutes to go. But we shall see. Looking forward to that one tonight. Calabrese, what do you got?
I'm going to go over 57.5 between Duke and Virginia in the ACC championship. I look at the Blue Devils the past 5 games. The scoreboard's been lit up there for them, 71 points per game across those 5. And Duke, if they're playing from behind, I think it's perfect for them to be chasing. They're 11th in big play creation, 31 plays of 30 yards or more from scrimmage. That's third best in the ACC. And Mensa has been on an absolute heater. From a QBR perspective, he's top 20 in the entire country. And then Virginia, whether they're putting the ball in the air or running it, I really prefer it when they're running it because Jamari Taylor has absolutely killed teams lately. He crashed in the end zone twice against this Duke defense while racking up nearly 160 all-purpose yards. I think this is a game that could be, pretty ripe for the alternate line as well. If you go all the way up to 79.5, you think this game's played in the 80s, it pays off close to 8-1. I think when you factor in the elements, the football weather as well, and the element of neither team's going to give up. It's a title game. I don't think anyone's going to sit on the football with a lead late, or at least hopefully we don't see a repeat of what we saw in the Sun Belt Championship game. I think you see some cheap points in the fourth quarter, so I'm going over 57.5.
I wish you luck. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game because it's a Duke game. So the only thing I do know is that there's going to be a lot of dumb things that happen. Duck, what do you got?
BYU team total under 17.5 this morning. Texas Tech's defense is nasty, elite, maybe still a little underrated nationally. Third in yards per play, first in yards per rush nationally. Top 3 in pass defense, havoc generated, explosiveness secured. 37 sacks and 88 tackles for loss this season. David Bailey and Romello Height are coming after Bear this morning. These dudes are really going to make it tough on him. Just look at the first meeting. BYU's first half drives, punt, punt, missed field goal, punt, punt. They got down early, had to kind of abandon the run game, only had 67 rushing yards in that first matchup. I think Texas Tech will also slow the pace in the second half as the 4 seed. They don't have to win with style points. They're not going to be superseded by anybody who's below them if they win this game. And you do not want to get Baron Morton hurt. The drop off between him and Mitch Griffis is huge. Second string quarterback's already out for the year. I don't know if Texas Tech throws a pass in the second half. You get a double-digit lead in the second half. You run the ball, grind the clock down, truncate the game down, and just get out of there with a win. But either way, we saw BYU put together one scoring drive in the first matchup. I don't think these guys can put together 3 touchdown drives. So team total 17.5. I like the value there, under for me.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see how Roderick and company approach this game because they couldn't run and you just can't run. And you didn't even mention Lee Hunter and Rodriguez. That front of Texas Tech is nasty. No one can run on them. So I'm curious to see what the BYU offensive game plan is here, but it should be a struggle. For me, I'm going to go with the MAC under at noon. I know it's on a fast track, but I mean, 6 of the last 6 MAC title games have gone under the total. I just think this will be a slow-paced, methodical game. Miami of Ohio contained the Western Michigan rushing attack. Western Michigan is basically like a MAC service academy. Their quarterback is their leading rusher in attempts and yards. They're going to just try to pound Buckley, run their quarterback. The passing attack is pretty anemic. On the other side, Western Michigan's defense is nasty. They can really get after the quarterback led by Tucker. Miami of Ohio can do the same with Adam Trick, who has 63 pressures on the year, which is just insane. So I think both teams can get a lot of pressure and some drive killing sacks. Miami of Ohio usually plays these games, these high leverage games, very conservatively, play field position. So I think this will be a slow grinder type of game, clock moving throughout. You also there is some uncertainty with the Miami of Ohio new quarterback, right? There's no DeQuan Finn now. He left the program. They went to the second string, who was awful against Toledo. So they went to the third string. He's been good the last 2 weeks. And Miami of Ohio will take their occasional shots, right? It's a conservative offense that takes some shots. I think his A dot is 15 yards. But this is a much different test than, playing Buffalo and Ball State. So we'll see how the freshman Gutowski handles it. But I could see him struggling in this game. So, and I can see Miami kind of just easing their way into this game. Looking forward to that one in Ford Field at noon, but I'm going under. And by the way, the first game was total closed 40 and a half. I usually have like a 1.5 point dome adjustment. Went over on a 51-yard field goal after a fumble on a 5-yard drive, and Finn was incredible in that game. I don't think my Ohio's rushing attack is as lethal without Finn's legs. Also, his escapability against that pass rush might be missed. So I think this will be, maybe a 20-17 type of game. So I'm going with the under. All right, before we get to the marquee matchup of the day, I'll throw it to myself for a quick word on our sponsor, DraftKings. The Big Bets on Campus podcast is sponsored by DraftKings. And in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets. That's right, new customers can turn $5 into $200 if your bet wins, paid instantly in bonus bets. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up. Again, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings to get on board. The crown is yours. All right, let's talk a little SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama. It's widely known at this point that Alabama has had Kirby's number. Kirby 1-7, I believe, against the Tide. Alabama won earlier this year at Georgia. Not an easy thing to do. Collin, what do you got here, and what's the look?
Yeah, Kirby doesn't win unless it's the national championship game in this series. I'd like the over 23 and a half, wherever we might be right now. That might be sunk a little bit. It's
First
just
half over.
First half over. Sorry, first half over. Definitely, if you know the script of this series, it's always the same. Alabama does not lose first quarters. Now, whether that's going to be 21-0, 7-0, it'll remain to be seen. But when Kirby and DeBoer have gone up against each other, the first quarter score is 28-0 in favor of Alabama. But after those adjustments come from Georgia, who is the best adjustment coaching staff in the nation, points have just flooded the second quarter in this series. And if you look at these two offenses, there's a reason to think there could be points early here before the major adjustments come at halftime. Bama absolutely cannot defend inside zone with a two tight end set. That 12 personnel absolutely tears them up. Chauncey Bowens is healthy for this game. He was dressed for Georgia Tech, didn't play. He's going to be a full go here. That's important because he had over 100 yards on the ground and was just a bulldozer in the end zone for Georgia last time they faced Alabama. Nate Frazier, Gunnar Stockton. I don't know why Gunnar Stockton only ran 3 times from design play perspective last time they played Alabama. But let's just say whatever Georgia does on the ground, they're going to get away with it against Alabama because that is just something that they can't defend. On the other side of the ball, Alabama doesn't have a choice, anything else except to throw the ball. Jam Miller is questionable for this game, and it's not like they had a great rushing attack anyways, and they weren't going to run against a Georgia defense anyways. Georgia is leaky on the backside, which means this game comes down to Alabama's quarterback's arm and zipping it to, I don't know, Ryan Williams, who Stuckey called a ghost. Jeremy Bernard, his A dot is 4.4. He doesn't get it deep downfield, and Georgia's great at tackling. Isaiah Horton is the guy to go to right now. That's really the only option that Ty Simpson has to go to, but they're not running the ball. So Alabama is going to have to throw vertical down the field. Georgia at the same time is not going to be stopped running the ball. And once those adjustments come, and sometime in the beginning of the second quarter, that's when you want to look to bet Georgia live. But more importantly, the points are going to be there for a first half over.
I believe Miller's not. He was listed as questionable on the final injury report, but I believe he's not expected to play. Josh Cuevas, their tight end, game time decision, so we'll see there. You mentioned the script. I mean, I'm looking for Georgia live. If this, I mean, look, it's championship weekend between conference opponents. I'm not going to find a ton of value across the board. But if Georgia gets behind, I mean, it's not just this series, the Georgia Alabama series. I mean, when these two teams played, what Alabama went up 21-0 at the end of the first, 7-0 at the end of the first in the other matchup. 30-7 at the end of the first half, 24-14 at the end of the first half. But that's every Georgia and Alabama game, SEC game over the past 2 years. Over the past two seasons, since DeBoer got there, right? They've played 16 regular season SEC games each. Georgia is 13-3, Alabama is 12-4. But Alabama's first half scoring margin in those games is plus 117. Georgia's 26. Second half scoring margin, Georgia is a plus 135. Alabama -2. So, and that makes sense to me because you mentioned it. Smart, best in-game adjuster in the sport. Alabama with DeBoer, their script's usually really good. So, yeah, if Georgia gets behind, I'm definitely going to be looking to back them live. I think you would agree there, right, Colin?
Absolutely, 100%. We'll be there. Look for us on the Action app.
Calabrese, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm actually going in the opposite direction. I'm going under 48.5 for this game. Drew Bobo is out at center for Georgia's second straight game. Not only was he the rock in the middle there, but he also helped their true freshman at right guard. Smart talked about this morning on College Game Day in terms of his importance. He has a lot of faith in moving things around in the offensive line. Obviously, every single person he's elevating is a blue chipper. They've had snaps this year. But the offense, in terms of going down on that opening drive and scoring a touchdown, they've done it just once in the last four games, despite drawing a 5-7 Mississippi State, a 1-11 Charlotte. They finished 47th in first quarter scoring behind juggernauts like FIU and Cal Berkeley. So, Mike Bobo always gives me concerns in terms of his game scripts. So if they get out of the block slow, on the other side, I'm looking at this Tide team that against FBS competition, their last four games on their opening drives, punt, punt, turnover on downs, and punt. So if there is a slow start, what's interesting is like Collin's point for the first half, the second quarter is when the points are going to start, piling up. But when you look at their first meeting, there was 7 total points scored in the second half. That's how good these staffs are in terms of adjustments in the final 30 minutes. So I think this is going to be one of those games where there's going to be scoring bursts and then there's going to be longer droughts. And the other piece of it too, Georgia, throughout the entire season, their bugaboo defensively is they couldn't get to the passer at all. They're outside the top 120 in pass rush. But when you look at that Texas game, they started using more stunts. They did some cross dog blitzes from their linebackers. They finally were willing to send some exotics to put pressure on Arch Manning. I think they're going to need to do something similar because once Alabama is in those passing down situations without Jam Miller to be able to lean on in the run game, they got to heat up Simpson. I think they will. I think they'll finally get home for a sack or two in this game. It's one of the key reasons why I like this under 48.5.
Yeah, that would be my only concern is if neither defense has been able to get pressure for the most part all year. I mean, I think Georgia blitzed like 50% of the time in the first meeting. They couldn't get any pressure. So you have that fast track with all those premier athletes, and neither defense can get pressure. Is there going to be a lot of explosives? Now, Georgia does a good job of preventing explosives. Alabama's probably going to work the intermediary part of the field, but could you see too many broke plays? That's my only concern. Historically, the SEC championship has been an over cash cow. It's been the most profitable over conference championship. I think it's what 14-6 or 13-7, maybe 14-6 over the past 20 years. Duck, I know you don't have anything here, but do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, and I looked at this one extensively and just couldn't get there, but I think Alabama will play this game out of desperation. I'm not completely convinced that they're solidified as in with a bad loss. I think we'll see them abandon the run game as they did in the first meeting. Ty Simpson should throw it around a little bit. Interesting, we saw 38 points in the first half of the first meeting, and then they scored the last touchdown with 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Live line
Brutal
in
one if
that
you had
meet.
the over.
Yeah, and the live line at one point was 64 and a half. I don't know that we can bank on another 22 minutes of scoreless second half in this one. And the SEC championship game, as you had mentioned, has a propensity to be higher scoring than you would traditionally believe. So again, I don't have anything in pocket, but I do lean over.
All right, let's transition to some FCS talk. Bring in just Duck here. We are going to start things off with some Ivy Ball.
Yeah, Yale. I mean, fun story. First time that the Ivy League is able to participate in the FCS playoffs. Didn't look good through 3 quarters as they were down by 4 touchdowns against Youngstown State. They were moving the ball well on offense. It was some fluky turnover stuff that happened there, but they got the ground game going with Pitzenberger, 206 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. And this line is absurd with Montana State. Montana State is a very solid team. They're not nearly the championship caliber team that they were last season. Yale will be able to run the football. I think we saw Yale learn on the fly last week about the level of talent that they were playing and what it really took in order to perform. I think they'll play pretty well in this game. I'm not trying to make a case that they're going to win, but 4 touchdowns, my goodness, they're going to run the ball with Pitzenberger. Their defense will do enough to contain the Montana State three-headed monster that they use with their 2 running backs and their quarterback Lamson on the ground. Yale should keep this tight. I had this one power rated about 20-21. I think we're getting a lot of value on Yale here. I don't look at that performance that they had last week as necessarily something too terribly bad here. Yale will keep this game close. This will be a fun game.
Playing with house money. It's 4 touchdown dogs after that crazy comeback last week.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Now we're looking at for pick two, we're looking at an under between North Dakota State and Illinois State.
Yeah, a rematch of a game they played earlier this season where Illinois State played pretty well. It was 18-16 going into the fourth, and then North Dakota State won the fourth quarter. A couple fluky things that happened there to elevate the scoring. North Dakota State's going to be really well prepared for what the Redbirds want to do on the ground and what Tommy Rittenhouse wants to do through the air. The Fargo Dome is a tough place for this opponent to go in and try to operate out of. Very, very slow tempo on both sides. In the first meeting, North Dakota State ran just 50 total plays. I would expect run heavy in the second half. I could totally see this one where the Bison get to let's call it 31-10 type of score in the fourth quarter, and you would need 2 touchdowns late in order to exceed this total. Not going to happen here. The Bison don't necessarily, they're not overt about trying to rub it in and blow you out. They'll run the ball, use the entire play clock, the entire game. Should be limited possession count here, but the Bison defense is really going to stifle Illinois State. This one should stay under the posted total.
We started with some Ivy Leaguers. Now you're also looking at some engineers.
Yeah, and I love this is going to be such a fun FCS game. A little bit of a regional rivalry here between Lehigh and Villanova, but the Lehigh run game is so strong. Yoder is an electric back. They're a senior-laden team, ready to make a strong push in the FCS playoffs for Lehigh. And I still think Lehigh is a little underrated in the national scope. They were 12-0 in the regular season. Books never really caught up to them. 11-1 against the number. They continued to win, continued to cover spreads. Lehigh plays rock solid, sound football at home. You look at the defense for Lehigh, they will take away what Villanova wants to do offensively. They don't give up explosive plays, they don't miss tackles. Lehigh does not commit stupid penalties or beat themselves. They're just a buttoned up defensive unit. I like Lehigh to win this game. It'll be a close game, it'll be back and forth, but I think Lehigh wins this one by a touch.
Good stuff there, Duck. I wish you well on all of your FCS ventures today. Before we get out of here, one final order of business. That is our money line parlay. Collin, kick things off.
Yeah, I mean, we have to start this off with Miami of Ohio. I mean, you've already mentioned it, some of that game. I love Gakowski. I love the way that he's thrown since he's taken over. 7 big-time throws, one turnover-worthy play. Western Michigan, a little bit one-dimensional. These two teams have played each other before, and I know DeQuan Quinn had a huge part in that. But still, if you look at the defensive side of the ball, Western Michigan only had 1 red zone trip. I like Miami of Ohio to win it.
Well, you didn't look at the doc because that was mine, so we're gonna have to pivot here. But while we're doing that, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Indiana money line plus 165. This is scenario, do you believe the numbers or not? Indiana's offensive success rate first in rushing, second in passing. Their defense as well, fourth in stopping the run, seventh in coverage. So if you put any faith in that, then you have to believe that they have a puncher's chance against Ohio State. And we need to have a little bit of a dialogue. I understand that Ohio State has played so well. They've knocked down every single opponent in front of them, dominated the games, played their exact brand of football. But who's the best quarterback and offense that they faced this year? Was it Washington 2.5 months ago? And also in terms of their defense needing to get a stop, not just, playing, balls to the wall in the first half and then coasting in the second half. They even needed to make a stop in the fourth quarter since the opener against Texas. Whereas Indiana, you can argue that winning at Iowa, winning at Penn State, those games shouldn't have been as close. But at least in crunch time, they executed on the road in critical situations. So I have faith, given their coach, the personality that is taken on from Signetti to this entire team. If this was a different helmet, different laundry, if you looked at all these stats and the coach, I think there would be more faith in the market in the Hoosiers. But I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of plus 165.
Duck, you're going FCS here.
Yeah, and I did that because we have such a limited amount of games. There's only so few dogs that we all like. So, University of South Dakota travels to Georgia to take on Mercer. USD has an elite offensive rushing attack. LJ Phillips, 1,668 rushing yards, 17 scores on the ground. The Yotes defensive front will cause chaos for Mercer, who's not used to lining up against these strong, fast, physical fronts like you see in the Missouri Valley Conference. USD will get the ground game humming, and you can pass on this Mercer secondary, and they're going to take deep shots. Aiden Bowman throws a great deep ball. They connect a ton on chunk explosives in the pass game. Mercer's offense really took a turn since they switched to Atkinson at quarterback, who won the Jerry Rice Award as the top freshman in FCS. But this is a whole new ball game against an unfamiliar opponent, an unfamiliar skill set of the athletes that they're going to line up against. You don't see this in the SoCon too frequently. I've got an experienced QB against a new freshman QB who's still a little green. This is a different environment today. The Yotes are going to win this game outright.
All right, well, I agree with Collin. I also don't sleep on Miami Ohio special teams advantage here, but variance with the young quarterback. I think this is a coin flip type game. If you wanted to just go Miami of Ohio, Indiana, South Dakota, then that pays out about 13 to 1. I'll throw out just Texas Tech. I think their defense is too good. That would be about 18 to 1 overall. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Duck, Mike, and Collin for joining me. Thanks to our producer, Giff, on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Bowl previews are coming. We have a bowl next Saturday, and we have the Celebration Bowl. Duck will fill us in there as well. We'll be doing all of the previews, 7 of them. So make sure you are tuned in wherever you listen to podcasts, the Big Bets on Campus podcast, 959 Bad Beat. That is the voicemail. We have our final voicemail episode tomorrow, recapping championship weekend and a live reaction to the college football playoff bracket reveal. Make sure you're following along in the award-winning Action Network app. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all during the week. Cheers.